Wow, what a beautiful day. You're gonna do it, Mike. Today is the day you're gonna do it. All right, a little more shaving cream. Hey, what are you people doing in my medicine cabinet? That's not cool, man. I'm all ready to shave off my beard today. I was all prepared, and now I'm not even gonna do it. You know what? Instead, we're gonna do some reading. Oh yeah. What? Don't you sleep in a Winnie the Pooh tie too? I'm telling you kids better up your game. You gotta get some style, some fashion. We'll work on that later. See you in a bit. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. An Oscar? An Oscar? For my dramatic reading of Sarny yesterday? Wow, I'm honored, really. That's extraordinary. But no, I don't need an Oscar. That's fine. Is there a cash prize I could? Oh no. Oh, that's okay. Oh yes, thank you. Oh, you noticed my fashion? Yeah, I know. I say, I work at it. It's something style that comes very naturally to me. No, my students have none of it. No. I'm working on it with them. Yeah, I got to work on that with them. Yeah, they wear ripped jeans and shorts all winter. No hopers, complete no hopers. Well, thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate that. But no, my place is in the classroom. I just love my students so much. You have a good day then. Bye-bye. Wow, isn't that remarkable? I never thought an Oscar. Isn't that something? And, by the way, for all of you students who made fun of me all year for not having a phone, what do you think this is, huh? Yeah, you heard. And I'm back. So I hope yesterday's reading wasn't too terrible. I hope I did okay. Again, this is really new for all of us. Can I help you? This cat is always trying to get into my shot. Look at him. Yeah, Jimmy, I don't know that that's the best angle. Can you, why don't you come down? Yeah, why don't you, here. I got you a book to read. Go read that book. There you go. Over there. Thank you. Sorry, what are you going to do? I don't know. So let's continue today with chapter 9. Yeah, that's a good boy. Good Jimmy. See, he's a great cat. What can I say? I tease, but he's a great cat. All right, so let's continue our reading today. Things are going to get interesting in chapter 9, believe me. All right, here we go. Later, I was never sure whether Laura, she found us, or we found her. Didn't matter so long as we found each other, the way I look at it. When the 4 boys died, we left that place and kept on moving south. There were more and more soldiers and guns and wagons moving on the road, so many of them that it made traveling hard and slow because we had to get off the road so much to let them go by. Slowed us down to a frog's crawl. By this time we were running short on food, and when we went by a plantation named of Haven Hall, we turned in. Figured to see if they had some victuals, that's food. And halfway down the lane, coming to the house, there stood a field of sweet corn to the side. Of course, the soldiers had been at the corn, and most of it was gone, but corn, it don't all come ripe at once, and the ears too green for the soldiers had come ripe for us. We picked enough for a feast, and set to eating them raw. Tyler, too, mostly gummed, but he got some down, and Lucy nodded. Maybe we make a fire and roast a few ears, he'll get more into his belly. Raw corn is hard to pull loose. I'd like some roasted ears myself. So we found some wood and made a small fire at the side of the cornfield, and when it burned down, I pushed some ears we hadn't shucked into the coals. Won't take but a mite. And looked up to see a carriage coming down the lane from the plantation. Ain't much on knowing carriages. Waller had one he thought was fancy, and I expect it was pretty. Shiny black with leather seats, oiled, harness shining in the sun. But it wouldn't hold a candle to this one. closed in with soft red curtains over the windows and a small door on each side. Muddy here and there, but still shiny, with big wheels and a team of matched gray horses. Big black man driving the horses, sitting up on top with the reins coming back tight like he was holding the horses from running. Wearing a black suit and a small round hat with a feather sticking up from it near a foot. He pulled the team up next to our fire and they fidgeted, stamping to go. Little spit from their lips where the bit went through. Lucy's mouth dropped open, and so did mine. Whole thing didn't belong, not anymore. So let's stop here for a second, because this is a very interesting moment. Here you have Sarny and Lucy seeing something that is instantly recognizable to them as a symbol. And it's a symbol of something that they hate, that they detest. Can you guess what that symbol might be? Here you have this incredibly wealthy, extravagant, adorned carriage. And on top, you have a man with a servant's outfit on. And inside, you have somebody who owns the carriage. So what do you think this represents in Sarny and Lucy's eyes? This is their first impression. So if you said the past, even a symbol of slavery, the fact that the person on top is not the person who owns this luxurious vehicle. It's the person who's being driven around inside. So immediately, Sarny and Lucy see this as a negative symbol. Let's watch how their opinion of this symbol evolves. One of the curtains slid open, and a white woman's face appeared. Prettiest white woman I ever saw. Oval face, black hair pulled back with a silk scarf over it, brown eyes as big as a plate, and white teeth. I could see Lucy stiffen and knew she wasn't going to take any sass off of this woman, and neither was I. Days for that were gone too. Excuse me for interrupting your meal, but I wondered if you girls might be looking for employment. So let's take a second here. This is the first words we've heard from Miss Laura. How would you characterize the tone with which she is speaking to Sarny and Lucy? Certainly, it's a very unfamiliar tone to them. So if you said that she was respectful, polite, I think you'd be 100% correct. In fact, if we look at her first two words that she says, excuse me. Okay? Have Sarny and Lucy ever heard those two words their entire lives? So there is something ironic happening here. Remember what irony is? The exact opposite of a literally intended expectation or outcome. Sarny and Lucy are expecting one thing, but automatically they seem to be getting something very, very different, don't they? Soft voice, like honey over warm milk, almost dripped with soft. Didn't know what employment meant, but I didn't want to sound dumb. Didn't matter. Lucy jumped in. She looked up at the driver. You don't have to be working for her like this. Slavery is done. Those blue soldiers are killing it. You can get down off of that buggy anytime you want. He smiled and shook his head. I'm not a slave. Not now. I work for Miss Laura. For money. I do not believe in slavery. The woman, she pushed the curtain open wider. I am offering you both a job helping me travel. I can pay each of you $20 a month for the time I need you. And if you are suitable, the employment may continue after I reach my destination. She talked so fine. Words just floated out of her, lighter than air, all big, and said just so. I couldn't help smiling, thinking on it. It was like music. And $20 a month, more money than I ever knew there was just for a month's work. Real pay for work, paying money. Used to dream about it, working for money to earn enough to buy my freedom. Some did it on other plantations, but Waller, he never would have allowed it. But I shook my head. I can't. I've got to find my children in New Orleans. She smiled again. But my dear, that's perfect. I'm going to New Orleans. And that is how we came to be with Miss Laura. Sorry about that, kids. I had to go feed the cats. It's that time. Never understood why so many of you don't like cats. Cats are the most adorable, loving, kind, wonderful animals that I've ever seen on this planet. I just don't know why you people have such an aversion to cats. They're wonderful. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about my lovely cats. Right, Jimmy? I love you. Yeah. So, back to our book. Okay, so Sarny continues. She says, there's some to say later that Miss Laura wasn't a moral person, but most of those people have trouble with their own morals. I'm going to read that again. That line is very, very important. There's some to say later that Miss Laura wasn't a moral person, but most of those people have trouble with their own morals. So there's a lot to unpack in that one sentence, very powerful sentence. And remember, Sarny loves Miss Laura. Miss Laura is her sentry. She is like her dealie. So when she says there's some to say later that Miss Laura wasn't a moral person, well, we know what Miss Laura does for a living. Okay, she works in a house of prostitution. She runs a house of prostitution. We've spoken about that. So that's Sarny saying there are some to say later. But who's she really talking to? It's a good question. If you think about it, she's talking to you and to me, to her reader directly, and in her own way. She's being protective of her friend. She's saying, don't you judge my friend based on your morals. Why don't you worry about your own? So it's very subtle, it's very southern, and very, very delicate, but also very, very strong defense of her friend. I'm going to read it one last time. There's some to say later that Miss Laura wasn't a moral person, but most of those people have trouble with their own morals. So Sarny is pointing what she assumes could possibly be our judgmental finger right back at us, which is really, really tactful to stick up for a friend. Miss Laura, she became a good friend to me, almost a mother like Delia, and without her, I maybe wouldn't have had a life at all, so I don't think too much on her morals. Just think on her as a friend. Of course, then I didn't know what I know now. She opened the door of the carriage and motioned to the boy. He can ride inside with me, with one of you. I'm worried that he may fall off. The other one can ride on top of the carriage with Bartlett. I'd let you both ride inside, but there isn't any room. I liberated some food from Haven Hall. So liberated is a very tactful way of saying what? Very delicate way of saying what? If you guess stole, then you'd be right. I saw inside the door that she was holding open, and she was telling the truth. The whole inside was packed with sacks and jars. Must have been enough food for an army. I'll ride on top, Lucy said, and I nodded because I could see it coming. Bartlett, he wasn't ugly, and Lucy, she couldn't help herself. Tyler, too, and me, we climbed up into the carriage, and after moving some bags and boxes around, we made a small place to sit. I sat, and Tyler, too, he sat in my lap. I am Laura, she said, Laura Harris. And your name? Sarny. Started to say more, but just stopped. So it's awkward here. Miss Laura introduces herself as Laura Harris, but Sarny can only introduce herself as Sarny. We know why that is, right? The slaves were forbidden from having surnames, okay? Remember, they could be sold at any time to anyone, and families were routinely broken apart. Okay, so that shows that there's a difference between these two characters. Pretty profound difference, right? Didn't have a second name, just Sarny. She nodded. A sign of the times, dear. A sign of the times. And the little boy, we found him. He don't talk. Call him Tyler, too. Tyler 2, as in also? Like the number. My own son is Tyler and my daughter is little Dealey, so I just call this little man after my own Tyler, except he's Tyler number 2. I see. And where are your own children? And so I told her all about Waller and little Dealey and Tyler and selling them and how we found where they were going and all of it, all of it. And when I came to where they took little Dealey and Tyler in the wagons, she said a word I only ever heard men say, and turned away and looked out the window so the curtain was still drawn. So Sarny's hinting that Miss Laura cursed here. She was so upset at the story that Sarny told her. And automatically we can see that a relationship is developing here between these two characters. And Miss Laura is very, very sympathetic to what Sarny's been through. And she's listening, and she's empathetic as well. Told her all of it, even the name of the man who took my children, and all this time I was sitting there talking, I thought on how it couldn't be happening. Never talked to a white woman except to say yes ma'am and no ma'am. And here I was sitting in a fine carriage with this beautiful white woman that talked like molasses, telling her everything, everything. And she nodded and smiled and cried, a touch of a white hanky to the corner of her eye, and all this time I thought, this ain't so, this can't be happening. But it was, all of it. Carriage rode like soft cloth over water compared to the wheelbarrow. Another wonderful simile from Sarny. I never thought I'd see on anything like it, and even later when the world was new and I rode in buses and trains smooth as glass, I still remembered on that carriage. When I'd finished, Miss Laura, she looked in my eyes, and she reached across the seats and touched my hand, like a feather fallen off a bird, and smiled and said, I will help you find your children when we get to New Orleans. But how will you know where to look? I heard New Orleans is so big you can't walk across it in a day. I know the man who has them, Shivington. You know him? She smiled softly. I know many men. It is my business to know men. So those two lines are dripping with subtext. Subtext means that she's saying one thing, but there's also other layers of meaning beneath that text. Now we know, because of her profession, that she knows a lot of powerful men in New Orleans, and apparently Shivington is one of them. It is her business to know men is a very complicated line, but I think you're going to understand it better the more we get to learn about Miss Laura's character. And you're going to realize how understanding all of these powerful men. Remember, men ran this society. We saw with Mrs. Waller, women had no power. They had no rights. They were slaves themselves during this time. But Miss Laura has a position of power because she knows all of the men in this very wealthy and affluent city. Governors, mayors. She knows businessmen, politicians. She knows everybody in the local area. And she knows all of their secrets. And she has leverage, she has power that she can use. It is my business to know men. And I think we're going to see how deep that line is as we read further. Oh Lord, I thought, I don't know what I did to set you to help me this way, but should you give me a sign, I'll do it again and again. To hand me this woman who knows the man who has my children, who will help me? Thank you, Lord. Didn't say more. Didn't want her to not be liking me. White or not, could she help me get back my children? I'd do anything for her, anything. She opened the curtains and I leaned back in the carriage while little Tyler too, he went to sleep on my lap. And I thought over and over again, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. So the chapter ends on a prayer. It's a very hopeful ending to this chapter. It's a very grateful ending to this chapter. And we, the reader, are left feeling incredibly optimistic. Sarny has a patron, and we don't know Miss Laura very well, but we know she's a protector we get the feeling that her motives are honest and decent and kind. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun for me to do this, and I hope to do it again tomorrow or what? Jimmy! Hey, not cool, man. What is this, man? Good spelling, though. Anyway, tune in tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to upload. I'm going to try to do these at night, these video lessons at night, and that way I can upload them. It takes a while on YouTube. Upload them first thing in the morning. So to all of my students and your families, be safe, be positive, be healthy, and be very proud of our amazing Manhasset community during these challenging times. No handshakes, everybody dab.